Ladies and gentlemen, patriots across this great land, welcome back to the channel where we say the quiet part out loud, where we stand for truth, liberty, and unapologetic American strength. If you love this country, smash that like button right now. Subscribe and turn on that notification bell, because big tech sure isn't pushing our content, but we the people are louder than their censorship. Now, I don't know where you were when this announcement dropped, but let me tell you, this is historic. This isn't just a military operation. This is a message to the world. This is a turning point. Tonight, President Trump, yes, President Trump, announced to the world that the United States of America just carried out massive precision airstrikes on Iran's most dangerous nuclear facilities, Natanz, Esfahan, and one more undisclosed location. And folks, these weren't just symbolic, they were obliterated, gone, vaporized. The very heart of the Iranian regime's nuclear program has been crushed beneath the boot of American air superiority. Now, let that sink in. For decades, Iran, the #1 state sponsor of terror, has chanted death to America. They've maimed our soldiers, killed our allies, and spread chaos across the Middle East. And what did past presidents do? They appeased. They paid billions. They negotiated with terrorists. But not this time. Not on Trump's watch. Let me walk you through exactly why this matters.
Are you done?
Well, I'm never done, but since time is out, I will be done.
Senator Padilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I, too, thank all three of our witnesses for your service and for your participation here today. Been sitting here for a few minutes and observing from my office as well. I know there's a lot of passionate comments that have been shared on both sides of the dais here. And I'll try to stay as focused as I can on policy and to be driven by, I think, some key data points, which are helpful for this discussion. And I would begin by recognizing, and tell me if you disagree, but Mexican cartels rely heavily on firearms, which we understand are trafficked from the United States, including military-grade weapons like sniper rifles. Now, while Mexico has strict gun laws on the books and only one legal drugstore, our understanding, our intelligence tells us that it's U.S.-based straw purchasers and rogue dealers who play a significant role in arming transnational criminal organizations. According to ATF, up to 500,000 U.S.-sourced guns are trafficked to Mexico each year, undermining both U.S. and Mexican law enforcement efforts. I'm not seeing any no nods from all of you, so I assume you're agreeing with me so far. I associate myself with a question and issue that Senator Durbin raised earlier about what role United States-sourced firearms play in enabling cartel violence and drug trafficking operations. So I want to sort of follow up on that and ask first you, Mr. Stevens, what role do unlicensed sellers, gun shows, or online marketplaces play in firearms trafficking to cartels? And if you can, just as a follow-up, how has HSI adapted its investigative approach in response to these challenges?
Thank you for your question, sir. So as it relates to gun shows and the gun shops, that would be the straw purchasing piece, which ATF is the primary lead on. We work with them hand in hand. I know you guys probably get tired of hearing about the Homeland Security task forces, but it is a great concept now because we're not just collaborating, we're co-located and we're co-mingled to work together, and we're talking every single day, greater than what we've ever done in my 32 plus years. And so we're working with the ATF to ensure that if they have a straw purchaser or they believe that the weapons are going to be exported in southbound, that they're working with us. And we're working hand in hand with our Customs and Border Protection partners to ensure that we have outbound operations and inspections going so that weapons and ammunition and currency isn't southbound and getting into the hands of the cartels.
Yep. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding your response
Yes, sir.
Clearly. When I mentioned the examples of gun shows or online marketplaces, coordination is great. Are you suggesting that because of the new communication coordination with other agencies that the online marketplaces and the gun shows are no longer a challenge or a concern, or do they remain a challenge and a concern?
I must have misunderstood your question. They absolutely remain a concern, sir.
Okay. So again, I'm glad I asked the follow-up for clarity. So what new strategies are being adopted, particularly through this newfound coordination, to help address those, or what new strategies would you recommend to be able to tackle the challenges of online marketplaces and gun shows?
So I think the way the HSTF, or the Homeland Security Task Force, is going to work out of El Paso, it is co-led by the FBI, SAC, and myself. As we sit together, we're going to have debriefings or briefings from our intelligence teams, and we're going to have a greater understanding of what each agency is seeing as it relates to the cartels, what the major cartel threats are within our corridor, and the same with the weapons trafficking. And so we're going to be able to have a greater understanding as a whole and be able to focus as a whole of government to be able to address that.
I would love, as a follow-up to this hearing, to hear more about what recommendations or policy changes come of those conversations, because we're at, more than 5 months into this administration. A lot of these task forces and operations are not new, so I'm eager that some of the improvements come sooner rather than later. You mentioned the FBI. I have one more question for Mr. Pettis. How does the FBI coordinate with other federal and foreign partners, for that matter, to trace the firearms recovered from cartel-related crimes? And as a follow-up to that, what new tools would improve your ability to hold the traffickers accountable?
Thank you for the question, sir. On the firearms tracing south of the border and really domestically too, again, that is ATF's primary role. We submit our firearms to trace through the ATF systems. But again, the recipe for success there, as we've talking about, Homeland Security Task Force is a co-located or a joint environment where we're working these cases side by side. I'll go back to my earlier comment, Senator, when I talked about our focus, though, on these cartels. We're not focused on one particular violation. We're not just focused on fentanyl, even though I know we're spending a lot of time speaking about that. We're focusing on these groups themselves and all types of crimes that they commit. And as I mentioned previously, sir, through our investigations, collective investigations, just this year alone, we've seized close to 3,000 firearms in our investigations. I'm sorry, close to 4,000, over 2,200 along our southwest border offices. So as we continue to aggressively and better investigate these cartels, these groups that transit in fentanyl and in drug trafficking and other human trafficking, also in firearms, we're going to encounter firearms trafficking. We're going to encounter how they get them, how they move them, and anyone else who's complicit in that environment.
Okay. Thank you all. Mr. Chairman, just in wrapping here, I know my time is up, only because I've heard so many of my colleagues raise the issue of the current immigration enforcement actions, not just in Los Angeles, but particularly in Los Angeles. I'm hoping you've seen reporting of Cato Institute research and findings that more than 90% of the migrants that have been detained since October, so the beginning of the fiscal year, do not have serious criminal convictions. If this was indeed truly solely targeting dangerous, violent criminals, there would be no disagreement, there would be no debate. But what we see in practice is much different than that. So to the extent that you're all just focusing on the dangerous, violent criminals with that criminal history and or convictions, we applaud you. Enforcement beyond that, I think that's a worthy subject matter of discussion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Before Senator Graham, I want to put in the record without opposition.
Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity. That's how you talk when you're serious. About peace through strength. No ambiguity. No empty red lines. Just action. These aren't political games. This is national security. Iran's facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Spectacular success? That's an understatement. The world just saw what unmatched American air power looks like. And not only that, Trump made it clear. We can hit more targets in minutes if Iran doesn't back down. That's the kind of deterrent the world respects. They've been killing our people for 40 years, HT. Finally, someone willing to say it out loud. Iran's been waging a slow, brutal war on Americans for decades. Trump's the only one with the backbone to say, enough is enough. I want to thank Prime Minister Netanyahu. This is what real leadership looks like. A strategic alliance, ironclad. Trump and Bibi stood shoulder to shoulder to protect Western civilization. The left calls it warmongering. I call it defending freedom. General Dan Racine Kane and the American military, God bless every one of our service members who flew those jets, made those calculations and executed this with precision. They're the tip of the spear, and we owe them everything. Now, I know some of you out there are going to hear CNN or MSNBC crying about escalation or global instability. But let me ask you, was it escalation when Iran blew the legs off of our soldiers with IEDs? Was it instability when they murdered dissidents, funded Hamas, and plotted attacks on American soil? This isn't escalation. This is the result of weakness being replaced by strength. This is what peace looks like, not through diplomacy, with tyrants, but through dominance over evil. Let's pray this sends a message loud and clear. America will not be messed with. Not now. Not ever. So, patriots, if you're proud of our military, if you're proud to see America standing tall again, like, share, and drop a comment below that says peace through strength, so the whole world knows where we stand. God bless our troops. God bless Israel, and God bless the United States of America. We'll see you on the next one.